I'm Joshua Leeds, co-producer of Sound Body, Sound Mind. I'm delighted to share with you information I've gathered over the last decade about the evolving field of psychoacoustics. I believe that sound awareness is very important because with a conscious recognition of the effects of sound, we can intentionally use it for balance, to create healing environments, and for the enhancement of learning, mental function, and increased productivity. Conscious sound awareness is a shift in the context in which we hold music. Normally, music is heard as an entertainment, and it's been that way for hundreds of years. But if we begin to think of music and sound as a potent sonic tool with the capacity to either charge or discharge the nervous system, then the sounds we take in gain an increased importance. Sound is like food, and by choosing carefully what we imbibe, we can harness the extraordinary power of sound. Psychoacoustics is the study of the effect of music and sound on the human nervous system. As a composer and record producer, I began my investigation into the broader applications of music in 1986 when I discovered the work of Dr. Alfred Tomatis, a French ear, nose, and throat surgeon. Widely regarded as the Einstein of the ear, Dr. Tomatis found sound to be a nutrient for the nervous system, either charging or discharging energy levels, thought processes, and physical functioning. My continuing explorations as a research journalist led me to the exciting and burgeoning field of sound work. In addition to the concept that sound can nourish the human nervous system, resonance and entrainment are cornerstones in the foundation of psychoacoustics. Resonance describes the effect of one frequency upon another as it vibrates and changes it. Entrainment refers to the process where consistent external rhythms cause our internal pulse systems, being the heart, breath, and brain waves, to speed up or to slow down. We are vibrated constantly with sound from jet planes, jackhammers, horns and sirens, loud music. Our cells are bombarded by the unheard sounds of modern society as well: microwaves, electricity, and radar. Might there be a beneficial way to utilize aspects of sound and vibration? The answer lies in the miraculous process of resonance and entrainment. Understanding these two concepts allows us to pick music and sound that will enhance or charge our bodies and psyches rather than damage or discharge our systems. In the house of intentional music and sound, entrainment is an indispensable theoretical pillar. Through entrainment, our major body pulses synchronize with an external periodic pulse. Periodic means ongoing, regular, or cyclic. Our brain waves will entrain to the rhythm on a record or the pace of a speaker's presentation. Within a matter of moments, we can be breathing, palpitating, and thinking in tandem with those around us. Usually, we are not even aware of it. Consider when you walk closely with someone. Soon your footsteps will lock in and you will stroll in a unison gait. Or the next time you get into bed with a sleeping loved one, notice how your breath rate will slow down to match their sleeping rhythm. If you insist on keeping your own breathing tempo, your slumbering partner will unconsciously match your breath rate. Entraining factors are found in nature all the time. The periodic sound of the waves slows us down. This is why people find a walk on the beach to be so relaxing. All of their vital pulse systems literally begin to match the tempo of the waves. Sound is most often the vehicle through which this phenomenon of entrainment takes place. Rhythm is infectious because of entrainment. Superficially, entrainment causes us to tap our feet and bob our heads to upbeat rhythms. But inside, the human mechanism experiences an even greater impact. External rhythms actually alter the tempo of our internal pulse systems. Here's an interesting note. The 10th cranial nerve comes down from the back of the brain and attaches to both sides of our eardrums. This nerve continues from the eardrum down through the thoracic and abdominal viscera, attaching to almost every organ in the torso. Therefore, the rhythms that vibrate the eardrum also directly impact the organs of our body. For the most part, entrainment is used unconsciously. We put on energetic music in the morning to get us up and going. At night, soothing music is used for relaxation. If we take these natural responses as indicators, adding specific applications of rhythms for specific purposes, we will find that external rhythm can be used as a superb adjunct to our daily lives. When we learn about brainwave states, we can navigate and exert choice as to when we are mildly coherent and when we are extremely focused. Rhythm can wind us down quickly, put us into deep trance, or lessen the effects of hypertension. There are no major secrets here. It simply comes down to awareness of a potent tool that always surrounds us. In addition to entrainment and the effects of external rhythms, resonance plays a very important role in psychoacoustics. Resonance may be defined as the frequency at which an object most naturally vibrates. For example, a tuning fork tuned to 440 cycles per second is manufactured with a specific mass. When physically struck, it will vibrate at 440 cycles per second. This is known as its resonant frequency. Likewise, suppose we have two identical tuning forks designed to vibrate at the pitch of 440. If we strike one of them to produce a sound, the second one will spontaneously vibrate or sing along, also at 440 Hertz. It acts as if it too were physically struck, and it was, by the sound waves from the first tuning fork. Thus, when two objects have similar vibratory characteristics that allow them to resonate at the same frequency, they can form a resonant system. However, if a fork tuned to, let's say, 100 Hertz was struck nearby, the 440 Hertz fork wouldn't even bother to respond. The same thing holds true with a violin. If I were to place a violin on a table across the room and leave it there, and then have my partner Richard Lawrence play from the other side of the room, then the violin on the table will begin to sound also, as the frequencies of Richard's violin essentially vibrate the non-played instrument's strings. This phenomenon is known as resonance. And how does that affect us humans? Everything has its resonant frequency. I like to think of it as its resident or home frequency. We humans are no exception, and that's why certain colors feel really good to us, or certain sounds. They are within our resident frequency range, and they make us vibrate. The same thing holds true with people. When we are around someone with a vibrational rate similar to ours, we feel very comfortable and familiar. Likewise, we really know it when someone's energy is totally different or upsetting to our energy field. So, in picking music or sound, finding pieces that resonate positively is a good thing. And when we surround ourselves or subject ourselves to sounds that don't resonate well in our systems, then we stand a good chance of falling out of tune, out of harmony with our natural inherent wisdom state of what is good for us. I'd like to tell you about the making of Sound Body, Sound Mind. I think it's an interesting story. My co-producer, Richard Lawrence, and I have a production company called Applied Music and Sound Technologies, dedicated to the use of music and sound for the enhancement of health, education, and productivity. While working extensively in the area of music and mental productivity, Richard and I have been cautious in our foray into the use of sonics for health. This is such a sensitive area under so much scrutiny. It's such an important arena. However, under the aegis of Dr. Andrew Weil, we eagerly accepted this assignment. Dr. Weil has been greatly instrumental in bringing holistic remedies to the attention of the American public. So it was of no surprise that he expanded his keen attention to music and sound for the enhancement of healthy human function. As various psychoacoustic approaches were discussed, Dr. Weil, Richard, and I agreed that the inclusion of binaural beat frequencies would significantly boost the potency of our sonic tool for healing. Anna Wise, an internationally respected brainwave researcher, author, and teacher, was invited to join our team. Susan Piver, our visionary executive producer from Upaya, instructed us to create an album where people feel safe. While we have differing perceptions of safety, it seems that extraordinarily beautiful music cuts across all boundaries. We decided the sonic texture of this album must intimate the softest, sweetest feather bed. To provide these dulcet sounds, we gathered the Archangelos Chamber Ensemble, from which most of the sumptuous music of Sound Body emanates. Archangelos consists of strings, brass, woodwinds, and various other instruments as needed. The musicians of this ensemble worked with the principles of positive intentionality in their performing. We all believe that sound is a carrier wave, and therefore stayed mindful in bringing positive energy into the performance. With our team complete, we began an intensive 10-week journey into Sound Body, Sound Mind. The title, Sound Body, Sound Mind, Music for Healing, set our intention. We make no claims that the music presented herein will heal, rather that we have created a sonic environment conducive to the listener's individual healing. Initially, Dr. Weil and Anna Wise determined that theta and delta brainwave states provided the optimal levels of consciousness for self-healing work. With that in mind, our team began an unparalleled exploration into the sonic creation of these states. While Richard and I had previously created other albums that include the binaural effect, we soon discovered Anna's work in this arena to be uniquely advanced. She uses frequency pulses to tickle and naturally coax brainwaves into specific patterns known as the high-performance mind. Most psychoacoustically designed production creates the music first and inserts sub-audio frequencies underneath. However, as Richard and I became aware of Anna's highly intricate frequency work, we realized that we had to compose a score similar to film cues to match Anna's distinct brainwave states in order to achieve maximal effectiveness and congruency. At this point, we realized we were breaking ground. As far as we know, brainwave states have never been symphonically orchestrated. For the first step in this process, Anna created a 10-foot-long scroll. In a symbolic language all her own, she designed an intricate blueprint which changed in its matrix every 15 seconds. After learning how to decipher this intricate schematic of brainwave inducting frequencies, Richard and I left many meetings thoroughly bewildered as to how we could possibly write musical cues to enhance this work. Even with knowledge of specific timbres, tempos, meters, harmonic structures, and various psychoacoustic techniques, neither of us felt very secure in how to proceed. Our challenge became, how do we create the loveliest and most delicate of sounds, designed to safely escort the listener into deep subconscious regions of the brain, yet keep it simple, non-obtrusive, or distracting? Even more puzzling was how to sonically integrate Anna's electronic binaural frequencies with our acoustic violins and clarinets and French horns. Our goal became the balance between these different elements. We decided to find classical themes that matched the 4 different brainwave states. After an exhaustive search, Anna, Richard, and I selected a Mozart for beta, a Mahler for alpha, a Bach for theta delta, and a beautiful Brahms for the awakened mind. The titles of these pieces are listed in the credits. Our choices were based on melodic and harmonic structures and the adaptability of each theme to various rearrangements. We felt exuberant and privileged to sculpt this phenomenal music. When writing psychoacoustically, the desired effect determines many factors not considered by the composers hundreds of years ago. Consequently, Richard and I often change original tempo and meter, rearrange sections, and thin out the scores to create a more easeful listening experience. For example, if the music is too complex, brainwaves move to alpha and primarily beta in order to receive and analyze the sonic information. For our purposes, this would defeat the intention of bringing the listener to a deeper subconscious state. We also discovered that bringing out the inner voices of these great compositions seems to open up the space for the listener's own internal reflection. It is almost as if the top melodic lines are the beta, rational, logical sequences of our lives, and that when we slow down and decipher the inner harmonies, usually shadowed by the main melodies, we find spacious alpha and theta-like sonic refuges. Once our themes were selected, Richard, Anna, and I began delineating sections, creating sequences that would facilitate brainwave movement. In essence, Richard and I were constructing a soundtrack to Anna's blueprint. The middle of the piece has become known as the deep. In this section, brainwaves are brought to their lowest and slowest. It is here that the strongest healing effects may be derived. We determined that a totally different treatment was necessary for the deep, primarily because the amplitude of Anna's frequencies are far more present than in the other areas of the recording. Also, the delta states required a much simpler form of music. Consequently, while the front and back sections contain Western acoustic orchestral instruments, we switch to another set of timbres for the deep. We use Tibetan bowls and bells, as these tones, interestingly enough, seem to be the closest to those of the electronic sine waves. For drone effects, we use other exotic Indian instruments, such as the tambura, a unitar, which is a derivation of the sitar created by Russell Paul, and the bansuri bamboo flute. We also employ a small amount of electronic sounds on sound body. We found that we cannot acoustically reproduce certain synthesized sound textures that were desired. Also, the exact manipulation of the attack and decay sound envelope is not possible on acoustic instruments. Western instruments are not designed for the level of slow playing that we need for the deep sections. We painfully discovered violinists are not fond of 2-minute-long single tones that were necessary for delta brainwave states. We concluded our sonic journey with a waltz, an adaptation of both the Brahms and Mozart theme. The 3/4 time signature of this piece is reminiscent of a universal breathing reaction of intake, outtake, and rest. Our desire was to have the listener, literally or figuratively, dance out of the meditation. It is fitting that on the eve of the 21st century, we combine classic art with high technology. The timeless beauty of Mozart, Mahler, Bach, and Brahms has been humbly adapted to create a very intentional effect. We believe sound, like a fiber optic, carries the vibration of the composers, producers, designers, musicians, and engineers. We have lovingly produced Sound Body, Sound Mind with this awareness.
Thank you for listening to Sound Body, Sound Mind. Dr. Andrew Weil, Anna Wise, Joshua Leeds, and we at Upaya wish you sound health, body and mind.